Hi, I'm Daniel Kennington. I head up the motion team at JKR.
Hi there, Stephen McDavid, Creative Director at JKR.
Hi, Jay Hussain, Head of 3D Design at JKR.
And then I am Kristie Malivindi. I am Design Director at JKR.
So this piece we're going to talk about today is the Meltdown, so a sustainable project for Burger King. And the essence of the project was about how do we create a kind of a memorable experience that involves removing the plastic toys from the BK kids meals.
Kids meal toys are rubbish. The world doesn't need them. The kids don't even want them. And with 1.4 billion of them given away each year, just to spend thousands of years in landfill, it was time to take action.
I really wanted to help the environment. We just started the petition.
So, in September 2019, Burger King did just that.
Fast food giant Burger King is removing plastic toys from its
kids' meals in a bid to reduce its environmental impacts.
Welcome to the Meltdown, a sustainable initiative from the home of Flame Grilling. Introduced by a cast of melting characters, this multi-channel campaign called on the public to join the Meltdown by donating their unwanted plastic toys via amnesty bins installed across 500 restaurants. But we didn't stop there. We went a step further and turned up the heat on the fast food industry at large by collecting and melting down our competitors' plastic toys too. Theirs, and definitely theirs. Then, in collaboration with world-leading recycling partner Pentatonic, we transformed these toys into new play areas, trays, and more.
We'll break them down, we'll process them, and we'll recycle them into new fun items that will promote active play and interactive learning within the store.
We collected 320 tons of plastic, committed to removing all plastic toys globally by 2025, and delivered over 9 billion media impressions.
Next this lunchtime, a move by
plastic toys.
We've just had a meeting with the CEO of Burger King. They are banning single-use plastic toys from every Burger King in the UK.
We even got these guys to join the Meltdown. Sounds great, but what did the kids think?
I'm so happy.
Burger King, melting down plastic toys for good.
So the brief we received from Burger King UK team, this was actually the first brief. So great kind of ambition from the client to remove the plastic toys from the kids' meals. But the initial brief we received was around testing alternatives to the plastic toys within the kids' meals. So things like stickers, things like pop-up toys, things like using AR and technology. So our initial brief from the UK client was really to run a test to test whether the parents and the kids missed the plastic toys within the meals.
So the way we started to think about answering the brief was, I guess, a conversation I had with Stephen after work at the pub. Amongst other things, we spoke about BK. And he mentioned to me, the idea or the thought that they wanted to test alternatives to plastic toys. And for me, this was huge. It was a huge step in the right direction. It's crazy that fast food companies are still producing plastic toys to sell alongside their meals. And these toys provided minutes of entertainment, but then stay in our ecosystem for thousands of years. So, this was a thing. It was a big thing. And we felt like this needed a movement. So we said, why don't we actually create a lot of noise and really engage people? So the thought was, what if we collected and recycled unwanted BK kids' meals toys? And not only collect Burger King toys, I think that the fun of it was also the fact that collecting McDonald's Happy Meals toys too, and then recycling them into something useful, something purposeful, and that's something that had more longevity. The main insight that shaped the project, I guess, was currently in the UK, toys can't be recycled curbside or by local councils. The idea of the toy amnesty and collection bin in restaurants was actually really important. And we knew in order for this to be a success, we had to partner up with specialist recycling companies that can collect and recycle plastic toys too.
Just on the insight thing, I think the consumer insight was quite important as well. So the fact that these toys are played with for a few seconds, like not a very long time at all, and they get left in the restaurants. So like that was, I think that was actually quite an important part in this project as well, and the fact that they don't need them in these meals, and the kids themselves don't really use them.
And then I think it's also just incredibly important to note that Jay wasn't even supposed to be on this project. This is not Jay's project, and this was entirely something that came from the pub, just these two guys chatting after work and just getting excited about the idea of Burger King has the personality and the unique position to be able to kind of take a pop at McDonald's. So thinking about like, it's shocking that you can't actually recycle these kids' toys. And so if we're going to collect them, like, let's collect McDonald's toys. And I think like that nugget of an idea was what got everybody so excited and got everybody just kind of like, there was a swirl of like, oh, that's great, let's run with that. And then everyone got excited. And then Jay buggered off and had a kid. So Jay dropped the idea and then left, and we just made it for him.
I guess in terms of taking the idea, so how did we take the idea from the pub to the client? I guess what was that that journey? So I guess the initial, when we got back into the studio in the morning, just started talking to a few people, as you do in the studio, about we'd had this great idea. Could it possibly be something we could take back to the client? It wasn't really their brief, but we thought, being the type of client they are, be very open to kind of creating disruptive ideas. We felt there was an opportunity to take something back to them. So a girl who works for JKR called Candice, who's not on the call, unfortunately, but she came up with the idea of calling it the Meltdown. So from the idea to calling it the Meltdown, I think internally very much the brain really started fizzing internally. So if you give an idea a great name, kind of started to conjure up imagery and the idea of the mechanic as well. So within, I think it was about 48 hours of taking the initial brief from the client, we were kind of back in the room with them with a pitch deck. Very simple deck that was kind of centered around what's the idea, what's the name, what's the mechanic in terms of kids bring in their plastic toys and receive a free kids meal. And then we just supported that with a mood board of melting kids' plastic toys, but done in a very kind of fun way. And I think credit to the client, when we presented the idea, not really knowing how it was going to go, they absolutely loved it immediately. And that kind of, I think, again, kind of snowballed into the confidence in terms of taking this idea to market. So in terms of, I guess, from how we pitched the idea and how it was received, that's kind of how it went down.
There was a nice bit that was happening alongside of that, which is that BBC documentary that came out, the kind of war on plastic. And I think these two girls, Caitlin and Ella, I think their names were, they were like really big advocates of getting rid of this plastic toy, which was happening pretty much at the same time that we were showing them this pitch deck. And I think that kind of lit a bit of a fire under the whole thing, didn't it, Steve, in terms of...
Didn't it come out, like, the documentary came out a week or two after we had pitched the idea, and then once it came out, it was kind of like the client on the phone to us, like, wait a minute, we need to do this now, like, go, how fast can we get this happening?
Exactly, because I think we pitched the idea maybe on the Tuesday, and they said, oh, it's funny you brought this idea to us, because there's a documentary airing on Thursday on BBC centered around kids' plastic toys. And I think, as Dan and Kristie said, as soon as that documentary aired, it literally pushed this whole idea into hyperdrive, which was, you know, great for us, great for Caitlin and Ellen, and great for the planet ultimately. So that was a stroke of luck, you might call it.
Yeah, I think as Stephen said, the name really unlocked it for us visually. I mean, just the Meltdown just conjures immediately like, oh, well, we're obviously going to melt the Burger King logo. And the idea of recycling plastic toys, again, what's really nice, Burger King, the brand, has that kind of challenger brand stance and mentality. And so it has a strong personality. So it gave us license to really think about how Burger King would potentially bring this into the world, which for us, we always talk about it being kind of like a PG-13 kind of sensibility. So don't take yourself too seriously, have a bit of fun with it, and and yeah, we can have a bit of attitude. So we were running with that, the idea that we need to do something that is going to engage kids, because ultimately we're taking the toys away from them. So you want to give something back, knowing that like further down the line, the idea is we're recycling these toys. So we'd be recycling them into something that is like a longer standing, like a playground, or kind of toys that will ultimately give back to the kids, and something that is far more longer standing. But that requires waiting. So in the immediate, need to do something that is going to engage kids, and then also engage parents, because they're the ones that actually have to do the work of bringing their kids in and potentially bringing in the kids' toys. So all of that, PG-13, let's make some toys and let's melt them. It was kind of the excitement of the idea. Everybody we talked to like kind of just threw in, and everybody wanted to work on this. So it was joint effort of design, motion. We worked with this really great 3D artist in Mexico who helped us with the character design. Copy played such a huge role, because we developed kind of the script, and so it was kind of riffing on this kind of idea of creature comforts, or even just Pixar in the language that we could create, and kind of this narrative story that we could tell. And so yeah, it was all hands on deck. It was incredibly fast, so we were doing everything simultaneously, as far as developing the identity, typography, characters, motion, storyboards, voiceovers.
Yeah, I think the multidisciplinary thing was good, because we've got a lot of different teams within the agency, and because everyone was basically working on everything in tandem with each other. So we had designers that never used 3D trying to do color palettes in 3D, while we had like motion designers doing type layout, and like it was all a bit of a crossover thing, which I think was what got everybody really excited. And I think just because the premise was having these 3 lead characters, which we all really love the idea of, to give the campaign a bit of a face that was universal across all the different formats, and bringing them to life in different ways. So obviously we had it digital, it was a print campaign, there was also stuff on boxes, there was also like a massive sculpture. So I think there was a lot of like different technical aspects to the job as well. So we needed that team that kind of spanned across all of these different formats. And I think, yeah, trying to do like animatics for film plus posters with like holding kind of pictures of toys that we'd made while we were trying to design the characters. It was all like it was kind of a bit mad, but that was what was quite nice about it. Everybody had this excitement around it. And I remember we probably spent far too long on like the melted toy poses, just to make sure that they kind of looked messed up enough, but still aesthetically very pleasing in terms of the whole campaign. So again, like Kristie spoke about, I think it's that irreverence of Burger King, the tone that they have. They can kind of do things that maybe other brands can't, and they kind of get away with it because they're Burger King. So we really wanted that to come through in their campaign. I think it came through in like, yeah, tone of voice, in the animation, in the voiceover, in, you know, the styling of everything. I think across all of the different platforms, it felt really joined up, which was really, really nice from our point of view.
Definitely. I think the having motion, having design, having copy, having strategy, like everybody working together at the same time, kind of everybody was getting inspired, having the 3D artist working based in Mexico, kind of receiving his files, kind of everybody was inspiring everyone, as opposed to kind of having a conveyor belt of deliverables. Everybody was working on it at the same time, which kind of created an amazing buzz in the studio. And I personally think is what made the project what it is today.
It was stressful and painful.
Yeah.
There's no lie there. There were some long nights, and it was, you know, and we all really, really love and respect each other, so we all work together well. But there was some tension when you're like, I've been working on this for like 10 hours straight. I need to get this out tomorrow. You know, we're all kind of up in each other's business. So it was, but because the idea was so good, and because like all along we just kept getting like more and more excited about the creative, and like to be able to design something that looks so fun and then also does really good is incredible. So I think it just really gave everybody that push.
Definitely. I think earlier we touched on did the client make any fundamental changes? I think the truth of the matter is no. I think they were as excited as we were. So every time we took a stage of work in terms of just updating them on the development, they were as excited as us, which again just made us more excited, and it just kind of snowballed from there.
And they were really great because we were sharing things with them as work in progress. So they were super open to seeing kind of rough schematics. Dan and I going in and doing the voiceover and like talking them through the script and doing the voices for all the characters, you know, sitting in the boardroom, and they were totally on board. And I think like the most effort that we put in going back and forth is on color, which was, you know, totally valid push to get us to the right place. But yeah, as far as the creative goes, we were pretty great partners there.
Just to add some colour to that comment, unintended. I guess where we were going, Kristie, right, was much more of a kind of the toys you associate with plastic toys, that kind of colour palette. And I think what was a great steer from the client was to bring that into the Burger King world. So kind of nods to the plastic toys colours, but also make it super ownable and kind of on brand for the Burger King, which again just made it better. Yeah. So in terms of obstacles, there was probably two. There was lots, and I think that was mainly driven by how quickly we had to turn this around. But the two that kind of stick out are in terms of obstacles. The first being Burger King UK is a franchisee run company, and there had been a huge order for the kind of up and coming Batman movie. So all the franchisees had their kind of plastic Batman toys ready to go, and we had to convince them, I guess, to that it was the right thing to do to remove the plastic toys, and convince them, I guess, partnering with the client, that this can be fun as well. It definitely wasn't about taking the plastic toys away and leaving stores of Burger King with crying kids. It was very much about how do we make this a fun activation as well. So that was the first thing. And the second thing was the recycling partner. So in terms of this isn't something obviously Burger King's done before. So in terms of finding a partner that could collect the plastic toys, melt down the plastic toys or break them down, and then turn them into kind of play areas within Burger King. And that was a huge challenge. And I'm not going to lie, it was literally the minute, kind of day before, 2 days before, that partner was secured, which made the whole thing, in terms of that mechanic I explained at the start, kind of joined up. So those were two very stressful, could have scuppered the whole project, kind of moments along the way.
Before we'd done anything, it was already a really good win to actually create like something that gave them such an internal buzz that they would remove this nationwide rather than just in a small area. So it was already a really good thing. And then I think when we got to the end of the campaign, for me, it was like, I think it was how holistic the campaign was. So we did loads of different touch points across, you know, in-store point of sale. We designed crowns, we designed like boxes, we designed digital screenage, like, you know, digital out of home. We did films online, social, we did a big sculpture. I think it was the real breadth of the project for me that was really successful, and the fact that all of those elements were really considered. So I think, you know, everything was given equally as much love as the other bits because they were all such important touch points. So, you know, the thing that people see with and interact with, like the crowns in store, so they had to be designed. We came up with ideas for burger wrappers, like the digital signage when you're kind of standing there to get you to bring a toy in next time, like pushing it on social. And I think, you know, the way it blew up as well, when we actually launched it, it was on so many different news channels coverage. It got like so much coverage that you could see coming in from different places. I think just that buzz and just that getting that word out and actually it being fun, but also it having like a nice sustainable message behind it. So I think not leaning too much on the, you know, it's good for the world, but at the same time it's engaging people to look at it and sort of interact with it. So I think that for me was probably the part I was most proud of. There was no part of it that I was like, oh, lets the campaign down. I think the whole thing was really strong together.
I know Dan mentioned it, but just the fact that we made a 7-foot sculpture of a melting plastic bunny in a little car and it got put on the South Bank. That's ridiculous and pretty exciting. So that's like a thing I'm proud of, to be able to like walk out there and see this like insane 7-foot tall sculpture of a bunny. It's a melting plastic bunny. Like I couldn't get over it. And that's something that Frank managed to make happen, which was kind of magical because it needed to be done quickly. It needed to look gorgeous. And it also, of course, needed to be sustainable. So managing to get that thing made in a way where it was recyclable was epic. It was a big feat.
I was just going to say, like Kristie mentioned earlier, I missed a big chunk of the creative process because I was away on maternity leave. But when I got back, I saw the work and I got it instantly. The immediacy of the idea was brilliant. From the logo, the characters, everything was beautifully executed. So from a consumer standpoint, I just knew, yeah, they'd get it, they'd understand it. So creatively, yeah, a huge success. But from the other point of view, I was like, well, we don't know how successful it's going to be. Like, how much plastics are we actually going to save? And then when the stat came out, as Dan mentioned earlier, 320 tons of plastic has been saved from landfill. For me, that's a real measure of success. And actually, that's how much plastics have been saved. And we are saving more because there's no more plastic toys being produced. And for me, like, I guess another measure of success is the fact that the reaction that we've got from our main competitor. So I love the fact that McDonald's have also joined the Meltdown. You know, I can't remember exactly what they said, but they said they'll swap out their Happy Meal toys for a bag of fruit, which I think was their reaction to our introduction of the Meltdown, which I thought was brilliant. So again, it's that knock-on effect, and I guess it's the other businesses and companies getting involved and actually making the planet a better place.
I think from the consumer point of view, I think just getting like messages from friends and people that don't work in the industry, just being like, oh, well, that's really cool, like, that's really interesting, like that's always really nice. I think that's quite a good measure if you can show it to people that don't work in advertising, don't work in design, and it makes them smile and they understand it and they engage with it. So I think just getting that feedback from, you know, other people outside of our sphere was really, really lovely as well.
All our moms, basically.
Yeah.
I think as soon as all of our moms called and they're like, oh, I saw that thing you were telling me about. It's so cute. And yeah, moms, friends, family. That's when cool. You know. That's when you know you've hit it big. That, and when you see that, you know, it's showing up on news sites in Australia and news sites in China. And I mean, that was mind blowing, really, to know that like it traveled quite that far.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of since the Meltdown, if you like, the conversations are ongoing now with Burger King on a global level, which is again is something we're really proud of, because this was a UK initiative, and I think the conversation now is, you know, how can we take the Meltdown global? I think as we touched on, McDonald's joined the Meltdown, which is again is huge for the planet, as well as you know, the creative case study. And I think in terms of our relationship with Burger King, you know, we've worked with Burger King for a little while now in the New York office, in the London office, and kind of just plan to kind of keep working together and keep kind of creating memorable identities, ideas, and experiences.